Christine. Christine, I'm here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to protect you. He won't last long like that. I should distract him. Viscount, don't you want to know about Eric? I do! I'll tear him limb from limb and throw the pieces in that damn lake. No, I mean, don't you want to know more about his life? Why are you talking about his life all of a sudden? You keep hiding things from me, and now we fall into a torture chamber. Were you trying to trick me all along? Settle down, Viscount. In fact, your presence here doesn't really bother Eric as much as you suppose it does. What? Are you making a mockery of me? Seems to me that you have quite an anger built up inside of you. If you are lucky enough to make it out of here, you should go and rest in a quiet courtyard. Stop changing the subject. Prove to me that you're innocent. Did you try to set me up in Eric's trap and kill me? You didn't want to see Christine suffer, did you? I had no idea we'd fallen here. If I had tried to trick you, I wouldn't have knowingly jumped in here first. Are you saying you are not at fault here, good sir? That's enough, sir. I must know who you are and what your relation to Eric is before I die. If you want to know who I am, I must first tell you about Eric. Yes, I've always been curious. What kind of family gives birth to such a vile, ugly monster? I was told that he was born in an ordinary technician's family. An ordinary technician's family? Eric was born the son of a mason in Rouen about 50 years ago. Do you know where Rouen is? Rouen is a city in North France above Paris. Are you trying to test my general knowledge? I was testing to see if you calmed down and were able to think clearly. According to what I've heard from Eric, his father was a very talented mason. Eric must have inherited his father's skills. However, he was born looking nothing like other babies. So he was born with a deformity? Was he afflicted with an illness? Had it been an illness, there would have at least been a remedy for his condition. In any case, his father sold his child to the circus. Wait a moment, Mr. Doroga. Is what you just said really true? Eric never lied about his past. How can someone act with such cruelty, let alone to his own son? What kind of person was his father? I don't know. What's clear is that they were handsomely paid. Eric's parents sold him off without giving him a name. Hence he was called the walking corpse at the circus freak show. I've heard members of the freak show lead utterly tragic lives. Even if they leave the circus, they are rejected by society for their unusual appearance, I've heard. That's correct. Eric was treated no better than a beast. Although Eric had proven himself quite talented in many areas, even so, the circus probably only saw him as a monster who made them money. Do you know how his life turned out? I don't know. Did he meet someone special? I'm the one who took Eric to Persia. At the time, my home country was not in a good situation. The British and the Russians had crept in to make things worse. We've been embroiled in warfare with our neighbors, too. Since His Majesty had ascended the throne at a young age, he turned to the Queen Mother and his cabinet for assistance. When you say His Majesty, are you referring to the Shah from the ruler of Persia? Yes, that's correct. Seems like you know about it. Anyway, the Prime Minister, who dreamed of reforming the country at the time, argued that they should bring in outstanding engineers from abroad. Wait, are you talking about Amir Kabir? I'm surprised that you know about him. Anyway, he was an impressive fellow. although neither his majesty nor I was particularly fond of him. To get back at the subject, we sought out an outstanding engineers and tried to recruit them. We didn't discriminate against our nationalities, age, social class, or even religion. Then I heard a rumor about a talented monster. You mean Eric? That's correct. I'm sure they could have purchased at least 2 large ships with the money I paid the circus for him. That's quite a sum. When I heard that he was a monster, I imagined it would be someone who looked like a demon with horns, scales, or claws. But the person I met was a frightened young man, thin as a skeleton. When he left his tent, he clung to me and broke into tears. I then gave him the name Eric. I heard that there was once a European king who went by that name, you see. His Majesty made me responsible for managing Eric. Then you were basically his savior and family. Well, instead of family, I was more like his supervisor at first. Since we've gone slightly off topic, I'd like to ask you something. What is it? How well did you understand Eric's past? Why must I understand his life? You attempted to fight against Eric without even learning about his life? There, happy? Now please tell me more about Eric. I see you were paying attention more than I gave you credit to. Alright, where was I? You had just given him the name Eric? Oh, that's right. Well, to continue. At first, Eric was made responsible for developing weapons. The weapons he developed were most outstanding. Well, what did he make? Would you believe it if I told you he modernized the old puckle gun for fire 100 rounds per minute? And this was 30 years ago. Well, I declare, I never even heard of such a weapon, even when I was in the military academy. The machine gun used in the war against Prussia just 10 years ago could fire 125 rounds per minute. Then that is most impressive. Come to think of it, you are quite knowledgeable about weapons, aren't you? It's an obsession of sorts. Do they still use the weapon in Persia? I doubt it. There have been many incidents since then. Anyway, so that was 1853. About that time he was around your age. Unbelievable. It couldn't have been easy. He was barely 20 when he invented such machines? I didn't think Eric received any formal education. That's exactly why I called him a genius. But even with such weapons, Persia didn't win the wars against Afghanistan and India. Well, we fought against them in name only. In truth, it was a war against the British, don't you think? Please excuse my rudeness, sir. Genius engineers and outstanding weapons were not enough to turn the situation around. As our total defeat became more likely, His Majesty tried to get rid of the engineers, including Eric. I persuaded His Majesty that Eric's talents could be put to use elsewhere. Were the only engineers all destined to die then? Quite possibly. We couldn't have let them leak military secrets to other countries, you see. So Eric had gone from the weapon engineer to His Majesty's personal engineer and jester. That's no way to treat a person who has served the nation so well. He wasn't treated like a person at all. Served the nation, you say? Eric probably didn't even know what he was making. He probably had no idea that countless people would be killed by weapons he made. Since nothing went his way, His Majesty kept looking for more productive sources of entertainment. Eric created torture devices per His Majesty's orders and turned them into shows for His Majesty to enjoy. At first, animals were used and later even criminals. And eventually the court servants. Oh heavens! Eric was never interested in blades, so he made a weapon of his own. So he used the noose as a weapon? The Punjab lasso was an adaptation of a technique Eric learned from Punjabi merchant. Originally, it was just a way to tie a strong knot, not a deadly noose to kill people. Countless people have lost their lives to this lasso since then. I've never heard anything like this before, sir. Was there such a terrifying secret behind Persia's glorious facade? Don't forget that you're a citizen of a European country, one with my colonies of its own. The exotic allure of my homeland was probably all you could see. You still have a long way to go before you understand the world at all, if you can mutter things so carelessly. I apologize for speaking so rashly. Whatever you learn will probably be used to invade or crush other civilizations. But it's true. What could we do? Very well. Please just tell me more about Eric, then. It was as if he was His Majesty's obedient livestock. Instead of a subject? Do you think the people of the court ever saw him as a human? Since His Majesty always had to do with the Queen's mother, and the ministers said he took out all his stress on Eric. I can't even imagine. What kind of life had he led? Whenever Eric tried to remove his mask in front of him, His Majesty would utter the most violent insulting at him. Instead, Eric rarely showed his face in front of others. He was captivated by the delusion that others would treat him violently too if they saw his face, just as the Shah had been violent to him. That's correct. That's why Eric showed no mercy to whoever saw his face. While Eric despised himself, he was also a narcissist. It was probably his self-defense mechanism to deal with the world of pain and blood. Persia was not the new life Eric had dreamed of, just another hell in a different facade. Anyway, His Majesty ordered Eric to build a new palace next to the existing palace, called Farhabad, in Mazardaran. Have you heard the name Rosy Days? I visited Persia during the travels around the world, but I've never heard of that name before. That makes sense, I suppose. As grand and beautiful as that palace is, it belongs solely to His Majesty. What's most impressive about that palace is that it has a giant maze made of mirrors.